Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. Hope you all have had a good week so far. So today we are gonna be going over some examples of times where the Jewish people have faced persecutions is a word that I have on here. Trouble, tough times, however you want to look at it. So persecution just means being attacked for your beliefs. The Jews have a long history of being persecuted for fair and unfair reasons. Majority of them being unfair reasons that has nothing to do with who they are, other than they're Jewish and that kind of thing. So there are several of these we're going to spend today talking about a few of them. The ones we're talking about today, you may have heard of, may not have heard of. The one we'll be going over tomorrow, I'm almost positive you all have all heard of at some point. There will be an assignment today, so make sure you get that turned in, and it'll be over the stuff we did Friday, yesterday, and today. So, after settling in Canaan, if you remember, Canaan was the modern day name for Israel, the Jews built a massive temple in Jerusalem that housed the most important artifacts and items of the time, such as the Ark of the Covenant, the Ten Commandments, and they even put a room where the Jews believed that God would live from time to time. Um, the location where this temple existed is one of the most important religious sites in Judaism and also Islam, and I'll get to how and why here in a minute. The first one, notice I said the first one, was around for about 400 years until the Babylonians, under a guy by the king name of King Nebuchadnezzar, conquered Canaan and destroyed that temple. So it had all kinds of valuable religious artifacts to the Jews. The Babylonians came in, they destroyed it, and this is kind of an artist's rendition of what that temple would have looked like. You can kind of see the city in the background. You've got this massive temple here. So this is what an artist's rendition of what the first one looked like based off of various sources that we have. However, the Jews were able to eventually regain control of Canaan, and they rebuilt the temple a second time on the exact same spot as the first one. So they retook the city of Jerusalem, rebuilt the temple on the exact same spot the old one was, and that was staying for another couple of hundred years until the Romans arrived. And for a while, the Romans ruled Judea, as they called it. Not a big problem, but over time, treatment became kind of an issue, and the Jews staged a revolt from 66 to 73 CE. So about 60 years or so after the death of Jesus, or after the birth of Jesus. During this revolt, the Roman Empire destroyed the temple, and they scattered the Jews across the empire, beginning what we now call the Jewish diaspora. All a diaspora means is where people are forced from their homeland into different directions. For the Jews, I think I might have. Yeah, here we go. Go back. Okay. You can kind of see on this one where the Jewish people were sent to Egypt, other parts of Mesopotamia, Europe, even. Each of the dots represents a sizable Jewish community. You see it in Spain, Germany, France, Italy. So the Jews were kind of forced out of Israel into all these different places. Now, the problem being they would not find their way back to Israel until after World War II. So you're talking 2,000 plus years where they were kind of in these different places, did not have their own country, if you will, kind of scattered across the known world at the time. So this is actually a modern picture of what is left of the Jewish temple. This wall right here is actually called the Western Wall, and it's believed to be part of the western part of the old temple. Jews will come here. If you go to Jerusalem, you'll see Jewish people lined up here praying along this wall. And then notice this gold domed building back here. We'll get to why this is important here in a second. So we are talking about Jewish diaspora just means the Jews were forced out of Israel into various parts of Europe, Africa, and so on. And all that's known as a diaspora, which means it's just a movement of people out of a particular place. So this building here, you kind of saw in the background of the other picture I just showed you. This is actually the same spot where it is believed the first and second Jewish temples were. Obviously, this is not a Jewish temple. Over time, this part of the world became incorporated into the several Muslim empires. And so the part of the Muslim Islamic religion, which we'll get to later on, is they believe that the Prophet Muhammad, as this the guy's name in Islam, this is where they believe he went to heaven from. So to honor this, they built a mosque, which is a Muslim church, on the site where the first and second Jewish temples were. It is known as the Dome of the Rock, and that is why this part of the city is sacred to both Muslims and Jews, because they both claim historical and religious significance to this one spot. So another example of Jewish persecution comes a couple 1400 years later, and it's known as the Spanish Inquisition. So if you go back to this map here, you can see there is a couple Jewish settlements in Spain. And for a while, that was fine. Spain had no problem with it, sure, whatever. However, in 1478, a pope at the time ordered what is known as an inquisition to find and remove people who were teaching things that went against the official Catholic Church. This included Jews. Catholics thought at the time that the Jews were spreading false information about God, about religion, whatever. And so the Pope at the time ordered an inquisition to identify and remove people who potentially posed a threat to the church. Now, this means, when I say remove, I mean execute, kill. It was a bad thing if you were a Jew, because you could be accused of something and sent before the court that was established during this Inquisition, where you had no rights, no lawyer, no way to defend yourself. And honestly, more than likely, you were likely to be tortured into a confession and then ultimately executed. Ultimately, this all came from a period that the Jews in Spain would become too powerful for Catholic leaders to control. And so they set about putting in this place this Inquisition to take care of the Jewish problem, if you will. And this actually forced a sizable portion of the Jewish population in Spain to flee to other parts of Europe, Africa, and so on. All right, so that is all the notes that we have today. There is an assignment I'm going to show you here. If you don't need to hear me read these questions and you are good to get started, I hope you all have a good rest of the day. I will see you all tomorrow. If you would like to hear the questions being read, stick around. I'm going to go through those real quick. Question 1, explain whether Judaism is a polytheistic or monotheistic religion, and why it's different from other religions we've talked about before. Question 2, describe who Abraham was and what his role was in Judaism. Question 3, describe the journey Abraham and his family took from Mesopotamia to Canaan and eventually to Egypt, and then what is important about this journey. Question 4, explain why the Ark of the Covenant and the Ten Commandments are important to Judaism. Question 5. What happened to the two temples that Jewish leaders built in Jerusalem? And why are those two temples important? And then the last question, describe the treatment of Jews in Spain under the Spanish Inquisition. What was the purpose of the Inquisition? So those are your questions. If you all have any questions over it, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you all have a good rest of the day. And I will see you all tomorrow.